Hello and welcome. Today I'll be covering the A Nightmare on Elm Street Iceberg, made by Reddit user u/horrormonster26 in the r/iceberg charts subreddit. So all credit goes to them for making this iceberg. I'm not really good with intros, so without further ado, let's dive into the first layer. Welcome to Prime Time B is one of Freddy's numerous iconic one-liners throughout the movies. He says it in A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors, when he kills Jennifer by shoving her head through a TV screen. A fun fact about this one-liner is that it was completely improvised by Freddy's actor Robert Englund, and Wes Craven ended up liking it so much he left it in the film, which proved to be the correct choice. Johnny Depp cameo in 6th movie. This entry just refers to how in the 6th movie, Johnny Depp actually makes a cameo where he shows up doing the classic frying egg anti-drugs campaign. Freddy then appearing and smacking him with the frying pan, asking him what he's on. 6th movie was in 3D. Yeah, this entry just refers to the fact that when the 6th movie was released in theaters, the ending was in 3D. The filmmakers calling the effect Freddy Vision. Afterwards, the 3D effect was only kept in the UK rental VHS release, the US Laserdisc release, and the 1999 DVD box set. Apparently also going to be coming back for the Nightmare on Elm Street 4K collection, coming out in September 30th, 2025. 1428 Elm Street. 1428 Elm Street is the iconic address of the Elm Street house, and has been in movies 1 through 6, and also in Freddy vs. Jason. No doubt one of the most iconic houses in horror film history. The franchise has 9 movies in it. This is just the fact that the Freddy franchise has 9 movies in it if you include Freddy vs. Jason and the 2010 remake. Dream Demons. Dream Demons are the demonic entities that gave Freddy his powers, revealed in Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare. Their goal was to destroy the barrier between the dream world and the real world. Their only notable appearances being in Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare and the 2009 comic Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash: The Nightmare Warriors, where at the end they come out of the Necronomicon and strip him of all his powers, reverting him to his unburnt form, where he is then killed by Ash using a shotgun. Robert Englund plays Freddy in every Nightmare media. This entry is talking about how Robert Englund plays Freddy in every single piece of media of the Freddy franchise, not including the 2010 remake. But also, the Freddy in Dead by Daylight does not seem to be based off of Robert Englund's Freddy, but rather Jackie Earle Haley's Freddy from the remake. Tina Gray is a homage to Marion Crane. This entry is talking about how the character Tina Gray in the original film is a homage to the character Marion Crane from the classic 1960 film Psycho, where they both share similarities of the film, making it seem like the character is going to be a main character in the movie, only to be killed early on. The actor for Tina Gray, Amanda Wyss, mentioning the similarities in the Elm Street film documentary Never Sleep Again: The Elm Street Legacy. 1984 movie is Johnny Depp's first motion movie. This entry refers to the fact that the original 1984 movie is actually Johnny Depp's first film, where he played main character Nancy Thompson's boyfriend, Glenn Lance, having one of the franchise's best and most iconic kills, where he gets sucked into his bed and the geyser of blood comes shooting out. We will now be moving on to the second layer of the iceberg. Scream Queen, My Nightmare on Elm Street. Scream Queen, My Nightmare on Elm Street is a documentary about examining the second movie and the second movie's lead actor, Mark Patton. I'm probably going to mispronounce this, but directed by Roman Cemeni and Tyler Jensen, released on April 5th, 2019, distributed by Virgil Films with a runtime of 99 minutes, grossing apparently $24,897 at the box office, and was received well with an 100% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes and an average rating of 8.2 out of 10. though on Metacritic having an average of 64 out of 100 based off 5 critic reviews. I've personally never seen it, so I can't give a personal opinion on it. Never Sleep Again, The Elm Street Legacy. Never Sleep Again, The Elm Street Legacy is another documentary that covers the entire franchise, featuring cast and crew members such as Heather Langenkamp, the actor of Nancy, and Robert Englund, who obviously plays Freddy. That was released direct to DVD in 2010 with a runtime of 4 hours, but notably ignores the 2010 reboot, only being mentioned by interviewees in the special features. Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash. Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash is a comic released in November 2007 to March 2008 that had 6 issues, written by James Couric and illustrated by Jason Craig. This series having the 3 horror characters face off and is also supposed to be a sequel to Freddy vs. Jason and the Evil Dead trilogy, a Nightmare on Elm Street NES game. This entry is talking about the game with the same name of the film, released on the NES in October 1989 and 1990, based off the franchise and developed by Rare and published by LJN. In the game, the player plays as a teenager, the objective being to explore Elm Street and collect Freddy's bones to burn them at the high school's furnace. The game being in the genre of a classic side-scrolling beat-em-up, fighting enemies like skeletons, bats, zombies, also having a sleep meter mechanic that, if not managed by getting cups of coffee across the level, will transport the player to the dream world, where they are more vulnerable to attacks by Freddy, also able to be played with friends. Dead by Daylight. This entry refers to the licensed chapter in the game, bringing Freddy and Quentin into the game as playable characters, based off the 2010 remake instead of the film with Robert Englund's Freddy. This one just makes me sad, because with the new chapters where characters are voice acted, could you imagine a voice acted Freddy Krueger? It would have been so much better than the Freddy we got in the game. Mortal Kombat. Man, this entry makes me remember playing MK9 on the Xbox 360 and being terrible at it. Freddy Krueger appears in MK9 as a guest character in DLC, a fully playable character with his own moves and fatalities. Also, interestingly, having 2 gloves instead of just 1. The wiki says he's portrayed by Robert Englund, but his model is clearly Jackie Earle Haley's version, though Robert Englund is apparently the voice actor, or at least provided his voice for it. It does suck that they got him as the voice, but didn't have him very talkative. The 5th movie was the first movie on Dead Meat to receive no dull machete. Yeah, this entry is just the fact that the 5th movie in the franchise was the first movie to not get a dull machete on the Dead Meat channel. Shout out Dead Meat, the videos are amazing, watch them all the time. Glenn's death scene was filmed upside down. In the original 1984 film, to film Glenn Lynch's death, they actually filmed it upside down. At first glance, it's not really noticeable, or at least not to me it was, but after learning, it is pretty obvious with how the blood moves on the roof. Wes Craven intended the first movie to have a happy ending. Yeah, in the original ending Wes Craven had in mind, it would be an actual happy ending, but last-minute producer Bob Shea changed the film's ending, like how it does now with that horrible blow-up doll effect. Wes Craven apparently did not like the change at all, and I don't really blame him for it. Jesse Walsh, Unknown Fate. This entry is referring to how the end of the second movie has the bus speeding off with no further explaining, which leaves the fate of the main character Jesse Walsh completely unknown, and is never further explained, making it really confusing as to what happens to him or the rest of the characters on the bus. The second movie was the first time Robert Englund appears without Freddy's makeup. Yeah, actually a fun little fact that Wes Craven's New Nightmare wasn't actually the first movie where Robert Englund appeared without Freddy's makeup, playing the bus driver in the beginning of the second movie, like a fun little Easter egg, also playing a nurse in the 4th film. Nightmare on Evergreen Terrace. Nightmare on Evergreen Terrace is the parody of Nightmare on Elm Street and Treehouse of Horror 6 from The Simpsons, groundskeeper Willie being Freddy, the parody referencing multiple different scenes from the franchise. Scary Terry. Scary Terry is the parody version of Freddy Krueger in Rick and Morty, appearing in the episode Lawnmower Dog, and comic Rick and Morty and More Balls, originally trying to kill them but failing, where Rick and Morty end up befriending him and helping him with his insecurity of not being scary enough. Instead of having the red and green sweater, his sweater is blue and green, and his gloves have small swords instead of knives, also saying bitch almost every sentence. Freddy's glove inspiration. The inspiration of Freddy's iconic glove apparently came from Wes Craven's hat, Craven saying that he watched his cat one night clawing at the side of his couch, giving him the idea of the glove that was originally going to be fishing knives instead of blades. Craven also saying his objective was to make it an iconic weapon, since he claimed every character that is successful has to have a unique weapon. And with the end of that final entry, this marks the end of the second layer, and also the end of this video. If you've watched the video up to this point and liked it, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. This is just part 1 of the iceberg that covers the first 2 layers. The rest of the iceberg will be covered in coming parts. And with that, I've been your host, Bubzilla, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.